Hi everybody, welcome to School of Scarlett. Today I have another message for you. So today's message came through loud and clear. And so it's not a coincidence that you're here on this message. If you are feeling tired, if you're feeling exhausted, if you feel like you're on this hamster wheel of doing and hustling and just doing, but at the end of the day you're tired, this video is for you. So I'm going to share with you what brought on this message. So stay tuned to the very end, but I'm going to share with you a little bit about my history, my background, and how this plays into the experiences that I've had. So I have gone from a transition of really hustling, working really, really hard, kind of being in this energy of doing, of having to really, help others, be in service, to really transitioning into just being and having things come to me, just attracting naturally through alignment. And so I'm going to share with you today that story of my life and how that really looks in someone's actual real life. So I recently made a video prior to this one about the dog and the cat consciousness. And what some of you really caught on to is that really in order to get to that cat consciousness and abide in that, you really would have had to go through the dog consciousness. So we have to kind of go through the kind of doing to get to where I'm leading to now, of really not having to work, having to just align. And so we really had to go through these things to get there. So, I'm going to share with you a picture of what this looks like. So I began working really early on. I can remember my first job when I was 15 years old, and I never really stopped working after that. By the time I was 18, I was already managing a domestic violence shelter. I went to school and college at the time, with going to work, and I had other jobs that, really demanded a lot out of me. And at the same time, I was either working or I was raising a small child. I had my daughter when I was 23 years old, and I was married when I was 20. So I was always kind of working jobs and working in my own personal life. And so my life was very, very busy. And so early on, I saw the benefits of working because of the money. I enjoyed working because it gave me money to buy the things that I wanted. But later on, as I went to college for psychology and I was working more and more in the social work arena, I began to see my work as service to others. And so it wasn't so much about making money as it was when I was between 15 and maybe 20. After that, I began to work more to be in service of others. And because I worked in social work, because I worked in counseling and these sorts of things, I began to really take on that persona of really being in service to others. And every time I would take a job, it wouldn't just be a job. I would also be, really trying to change someone's life, do better for this world. I was someone that loved to watch documentaries and, sort of be like an activist for change in certain areas that I saw needed it. So this really drove me in a way, but I can tell you that throughout the whole time that I was doing these jobs, I was very, very exhausted. I enjoyed what I did, but at the end of the day, I was tired, I was exhausted, I was burnt out a lot of the times, and I wasn't the only one. Every place I worked at, every so often, maybe every couple months, they would have meetings, team meetings, about how to curb burnout, how to self-care and what that means. And at the time, no one really knew what that meant. And I look at those meetings now, looking back, they were really quite silly. It wasn't the self-care that I know now. So even what we were being taught and we were being encouraged to do then wasn't exactly going to really do much for one, to get out of that burnout. So these jobs really keep you like on this hamster wheel of being in service to others and thinking that you are the one that has to save the world, that you are the one that has to create the change. And while that's very beautiful and really does come from the heart, it's kind of a step into the right direction, but the world itself is happening. And so when we're in the 3D mentality, we think that we have to earn things. We have to earn money. We have to earn love. We have to earn worthiness. We have to prove ourselves in some way, and so that keeps us going. In a sense, our ego is tied somewhere in this job, and so we don't really realize that till we're out of it. And so more, on the other end of this, on the 5D, when we transition into alignment, we can see that we don't earn anything by doing. We earn, or we are, by being. We don't even have to earn anything. We just are by being. And what we want is attracted to us simply by being. And so there's a very big contrast there between the two. And so after working these jobs that were just burning me out, I would transition into different, working at different places. I started to work with children, and then I started to work with, domestic violence and, sexual assault. And, I worked with, immigrants, and I worked in so many different arenas over the time being. I worked with serious mental illness. I worked with counseling. And at some point I did transition to working as a teacher, but as a teacher, it was the same sort of, feeling of being in service to the children and being service to others. And really, as a teacher, it really takes on like your life. You become the identity of being a teacher. And even when I wasn't working, I felt the identity of being a teacher, of keeping up those appearances, of, every time I went shopping or was doing anything, I was thinking about, could I use this for the classroom? What could I buy for the classroom? And then if I was looking at clothes, what could I wear for school? And so everything was about teaching. And so you can get really, really lost in the 3D jobs and world, because it pulls you into not only being in service of others or working a 9-to-5 job, but also into that identity where your job becomes who you are. And so it's very hard to ever leave that, because your job has become who you are. Whereas if you have a drastic shift, if something happens, like maybe your health is at risk, or so for some reason you can't go to work for some reason, you're going to begin to see that just by being is all you need. You're going to see that your needs are taken care of all of the time, so long as you're in alignment, so long as you are sitting back and really being who you are. And without your job, who are you? So we all got the chance to experience this in some form or another during, early the 2000s. I don't really want to say it on here because of the restrictions on YouTube, but when we went through the pandemic, essentially, we all experienced a little bit of a separation from our job. We couldn't maybe do our jobs the same way. Maybe we had to stop going to work. Maybe we lost our jobs. And for me, it was a transition into doing online work. I worked as a counselor in person. I was actually managing counselors. I was in a management role. But then I also took a second job doing online courses for people through that organization. And so it opened up a whole new world of what I do now. Through School of Scarlett, I put on online courses, and I do, sometimes coaching and things like that, so I began kind of transitioning to that, but also separating myself from those roles, those jobs that I thought were my identity. And so when you get a kind of a stopping point where you have to kind of reconfigure, you'll see that you are not your job. You will see that you have a little bit of breathing room. And I remember during this time, I would have team meetings with the groups of people that I was managing, and we would talk about what we were doing, for our mental health, all of these things during this time. And people were happy to say that they were learning how to cook, that they began exercising, that they started losing weight, that they got a puppy, that, they got a new bike, that they had never ridden a bike before, that they started hiking, that they bought a boat, all these fun things that were beginning to happen that hadn't happened while they were consumed at work. And so it was another aspect of themselves coming out, an aspect that was really coming through alignment and authenticity. So when we have time to kind of separate from having to do, we can look at what we want to do. And what we want to do oftentimes isn't just working. It's exploring, it's being creative, it's being alive, it's experiencing life. And so this breathing room that we got during that time really allowed for that. Now for me, it went a little bit deeper. And if you've been on my channel, you know my story, you know that I went through some different levels of awakening and things like that during this time. And so for me, I wasn't ever going to completely return to work or a 9 to 5 ever, because I saw the truth of reality. I saw the illusion that the 3D was, and I saw not just that illusion, but everything as an illusion. So when you see things like that, you really don't ever return to something like that. You can't unsee what you've seen. So for me, it now became, what do I want to do? How do I want to express myself? And I really connected with my intuition and allowed it to kind of lead me, kind of like with the employees and stuff that were working with me at the time, where they kind of allowed themselves to see what did they want to do that day. They wanted to garden, they wanted to cook, they wanted to learn something. They allowed themselves to kind of immerse themselves in whatever felt exciting at the moment. And so that happened for me. And so from that, developed this YouTube channel, developed many other different endeavors that I've been part of and that I continue to be part of. So it didn't necessarily provide me with money, let's say, at the time, or you know, even now, I can't say that, you know, that is completely where my money comes from. So it's not that whatever you begin doing is going to be, you know, your main funnel of income. But when you become who you are just by being, just allow yourself to be, you attract everything that you need, because you see how everything is connected and you see how you are connected with everything. And so things become kind of in tune to whatever it is that you want to do. So you start a new endeavor and suddenly the right person shows up. Suddenly the right financing shows up. Suddenly you're gifted the tools that you need. And so it's not that you need to have a certain level of income. The things that you want are kind of all playing together. All the pieces begin to kind of come to you. So it's kind of like a flower. A flower is going to bloom regardless. It attracts bees and things like that, but it doesn't have to do anything to do that. It just is. It is what it is. And through being what it is, the things that it needs come to it. And so that is what we experience when we don't abide in the 3D anymore. We transition to the 5D. In the 5D, it is very much kind of sitting back. It's kind of like that feminine energy. It's really allowing and trusting the universe to provide for you fully, like it does for everything else. Like it provides for the tree behind me and the grass and everything like that. So you'll be tested along the way. There will be things that, you know, you'll start to think, oh, I need to go back to work, or I need to do this or that. But you'll begin to see that the more and more that you surrender and trust, the more that shows up for you. And the more that you're awakened to, and the trust really carries you through, you'll see that there is nothing to fear. And so in the 3D, it's more about fear, but in the 5D, it's more about, you know, alignment. As long as you are aligned with your heart and the things around you, everything begins to work with you. Whereas the 3D, it seems like you're fighting something. You're in resistance or opposition to something. So where sometimes we feel like in the 3D, especially working in social work, I can remember I wanted to fight for the client. I wanted to, you know, go out of my way and work extra hours and get there early and stay late and not eat my lunch. But at the end of the day, I was exhausted. I was unhealthy because I resisted. I did things thinking that I needed to go overboard to help this person who really didn't need it. The universe is also providing and helping that person in themselves. Like there's nothing that I could do or need to do for that person. Whatever has to happen for that person will happen. And even if I step back and I go back into my 3D self or my 5D self, someone else, if it's needed that that person needs help in some way, someone else will come in. So I also realized that when I left a position working in serious mental illness, that, you know, you think you're the only one that can do that job. You think you're the best at that job. Like you're the only one that can provide people help in this area or whatever. But as soon as you leave, you realize that someone else comes in that role and they fill it. And you know what they're doing there, I don't know, but mostly you know that someone else has filled that role. And you can sit back and you don't have to worry. You don't have to hold this whole world together. You can sit back and you can just be in your energy, doing the things that you want to do and allow things to happen. So it's kind of like if you're scared of dogs or something like that, and you go try to like open the door for someone, or you're trying to, you know, we have some little dogs here, that we have some neighbor dogs that are puppies. And so let's say that I'm going to try to help my neighbor with the dogs. I think that he needs help with the dogs, to kind of wrangle them up and put them back, because they keep getting loose. You know, he's put up fences and different things, but these little puppies keep getting loose. So what I'm seeing here is these puppies running around and me chasing after them. If I think that I'm the one that needs to take responsibility, that I need to jump in and help with these puppies, and I don't necessarily want to be honest with you, when I see these puppies, I don't want to go grabbing them or taking them anywhere. They're kind of bigger German Shepherds, and I love dogs, but I don't want to be messing with those dogs. So, but if I feel like I need to help because I see that he's out there or something like that, and I go get these dogs and these dogs bite me, then now I'm hurt. Now I'm having trouble, and you've kind of essentially hurt yourself in a way. Whereas if you just allow whatever is happening to happen, allow him to take responsibility of his dogs, to wrangle them up and take them back to where they belong, and I don't have to get involved and deplete my energy or get hurt. So there's different ways of being. Now, of course, we've all been that person that's helped, and along the way we've gotten a little bit scuffed up. It's happened to me many of times, but now I realize there's another way to live, and there's a higher way to live. And when you step back and you allow others to just do what they're doing, nothing bad happens. Nothing bad happens. You just sit back and you are the observer. You are now in the watcher role. You're no longer in the doer role. The world doesn't depend on you for it to function. You can sit back and observe. And as you observe, whatever is needing to happen for that person will happen. And they'll learn from that, and whatever will happen will happen. So you don't have to take on the weight of this world. You can simply sit back and relax. And if you feel like not working, you don't have to work. You can align to those things in your heart, and the things that are in your heart will provide for you. You'll be able to attract the things that you need for you. So I hope that this message found you well. I hope that it resonated with you in some way. If it did, leave me a like down below. Leave me a comment. I love getting your comments. I've had a lot happen in my life recently around this topic, and so I want to share that here with you. And so I've had some pretty amazing things happen, and so on my next video I'm going to be taking you along for a ride, and I'm going to be kind of sharing with you some activations and things around this topic. So if this interests you and you are new here, go ahead and subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so that you are notified when I put out my next video or any of my videos. Thank you so much for being here. I love you all, and I will catch you on my next video.